So my name is Julian Gerighty. I'm the creative director on The Crew.
Tell us a little bit about The Crew for those who don't know about it.
So The Crew, in a nutshell, is a driving MMO, so massively multiplayer online game, based in the entire USA. So basically, it's the whole of the USA, one contiguous area. If you want to drive from New York to Los Angeles, you can do that. It'll take you a fair amount of time to do it, though. And all of the streets, all of the roads and the off-road will be populated by other cars. They could be traffic, or they could be other people that you can recruit or race against. So the concept is a little bit different from all of the racing games you've ever played before.
Obviously, with a racing game, the key component is the cars.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the cars. How many are in there? What type of cars?
So the cars, the spirit that we have is also something that differs from other games. We've just shown today one car, a Mustang, for example, that we've taken and we've customized extensively to be able to drive it not only on roads, but also off-road, on dirt tracks, and fully off-road. So we have 5 different customization classes called Street, Dirt, Perf, Raid, and Circuit. Circuit obviously being race cars. And a lot of the cars, these are all licensed cars. You can take them through all 5 classes. So it's a real RPG mentality of building up your car and racing it everywhere. Now, in terms of the variety of cars, we really do have 3 categories. American muscle cars, both classic and modern. Japanese tuner cars, like the Nissan 370Z. And, of course, European luxury cars, so Aston Martin, Ferrari, Lamborghini, that type of thing. But don't expect to take a Ferrari off-road. We do respect the spirit of those cars, so there's no crazy Paris-Dakar or Baja-style Ferraris in the game.
How accurate are the cars?
So we're doing something with the cars where we're taking the full stock model, and the full stock model is very accurate. It's based on the manufacturer plans. We do all the internal engines as well. We have the interiors. All of those things are perfectly accurate. But we have a very extensive customization and personalization feature in the game. So you can really build something out that's fairly unique. I think every car has around 200,000, 300,000 different combinations, from the rims to the spoilers and the skirts and that type of thing. Plus, of course, you can customize the interior, the engines, the gears, all of the performance parts of the vehicle. And every single vehicle is a 20-piece puzzle. So each one of those pieces you can have your say on and create something that really represents you on the roads so that you stand out.
And you mentioned a 20-piece puzzle. Do you want to go a little bit more into detail on that one?
So the way we approached cars was that each one had to have a lot of different parts that you could customize. We're allowing players to customize. So 9 of those pieces are purely visual. So it could be the hood, the skirts, the rims, the back spoiler, the mirrors. So those are 100% aesthetic. But where it gets really interesting is the customization of the performance parts. Now, the performance parts are the heart of the RPG engine of the game. So you'll be doing activities, races, little challenges, skills, which are 20, 30, 40-second challenges that we've peppered around the world, and there are about 500 of those. And each one of those will be rewarding you with cash, XP, so you upgrade your character, and a part. So the part is basically that piece of armor that you upgrade in an RPG, but transferred to the world of cars. So you may win a better motor core, so you can install that part immediately or keep it to install it in your HQ, where you can strip the body of your car away and see inside the engine to manipulate every single detail of the performance of your car.
Let's talk a little bit about the missions.
Mm-hmm. So the missions of the game, we really have a lot of different activities. The first one that we like to talk about are the missions. And there are about 70 missions in the game. They're very varied because we have takedowns, races, checkpoint races, getaways from the cops, and they happen in a very varied setting. The whole of the USA is very big, but it's also very varied. So a takedown in the city streets of Miami is going to be fundamentally different from a takedown down the Grand Canyon. So we create a lot of variety like that. Each one of those missions is linked together with a narrative, a story. And the story will bring you from coast to coast. So you start off in Detroit, and then you go all around the states, recruiting NPCs that will give you different functions and different perks, just like an RPG that will affect your performance as a driver.
So obviously there's a story behind the game as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the story?
So the story is, as I like to say, it's not Shakespeare, but it's the best story in a driving game that I can pretty much guarantee. It's been written by James Worrell, Ian Mayer, and Christian Cantamessa. Those three guys have worked on games like Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, Driver San Francisco. It doesn't take itself too seriously. You know, the source material are things like Fast and Furious, Point Break. They're fun movies. This is meant to be a fun game. So, you know, we keep things moving very briskly, and it creates a different situation that'll keep you wanting to discover more about the country and about the story.
Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
So it's a classic story of revenge, where, and we've shared this with the beta test, but your brother, you start off as a young street racer in Detroit, your brother is killed, you get jailed and recruited by the FBI to take down this organization. So you infiltrate the organization, and you're going from state to state recruiting people who can help you do that. And
you play Alex, who's voiced by a particular quite famous voice actor. So one of the things that we wanted to do is the story doesn't take itself too seriously. We're not claiming, you know, it's going to revolutionize video games either. But what was very important is that the execution of it was top notch. So Troy Baker's doing Alex. We've got other great voices for the other characters in the game. The cinematics, the CGIs, and the montages are all fantastic looking. So it really is a nice wrapping to a driving game. How long is the actual story part of the game then? So the story, it takes an average player around 20 hours to finish. And for us, that's just the beginning, if you will. That's the tutorial for the end game content. And we like to think of the end game content as stuff like PvP, which is the purely competitive side of things, and the faction wars. And the faction wars is what we're showing today, where you pick a faction, and every single PvP race or bonus faction mission that you do is going to give you reputation points and a rank, and that rank will determine the salary that you get every day. And that salary, you can use it to buy parts and cars. So that's really how you're going to be earning the money to unlock the full garage of all the cars that you want. Okay. So you mentioned PvP. There's also co-op mode. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? So PvP, purely competitive, either head-to-head or crew versus crew or faction versus faction. And we've got about 70 of those races in the game. But every single narrative mission that we've talked about before, you can play those missions either by yourself as a completely solo experience or cooperatively. And it really does transform the experience, because a takedown by yourself is fun. But when you're 4 cars chasing down your target, that's really something else. So the cooperative aspect, I think, is super fun, because of course it's not just cooperative. There's this competitive element to it. As we saw earlier on, everybody wants to be the guy who does the final takedown. And also you've got free drive. And you know, the fundamental building block of the game is free drive, which is just something that we've discovered in the beta test, is just an extremely pleasurable, non-aggressive, non-hostile experience where you're just discovering the country. You're riding around, driving around, either by yourself or with your crew, and all the other cars that you can see in the streets, they could be other players or they could be AI. So it's a really very pleasant experience at the end of the day. So you're not under pressure all the time. And at my age, that's super important. You mentioned obviously the faction missions. There are 3 different types of faction missions, and in terms of length as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
So in terms of faction missions, there are actually 4 different types of faction missions. There's short ones, which are less than 10 minutes. Medium ones, if you can believe it or not, which are between 10 and 60 minutes. And epic ones, which are over 1 hour, including one that's 4.5 hours long, apparently, which is the landmark tour, where you're going through all of the landmarks in the States. But there's a bonus one, too, that you only unlock if your faction wins the faction war that month. And that's a collect mission. So there's a lot of bonus content there that you'll unlock by participating in the faction wars.
So once you've hit the level cap, which is level 50, why should you carry on playing?
So by the end of the story, we've balanced it so that you hit the level cap, which is 50. And at that point, what we do is that we add a platinum medal for every single one of the missions and the skills in the game. So the ultimate tuned car in the game is going to be a car with all platinum performance pieces. And of course, there are bonuses to each piece that you can choose to be either super fast in terms of acceleration or top speed or anything else. So it'll take a while to unlock that perfect car that you've been looking for that'll just smoke everybody else on the streets.
And what's your perfect car then?
It's a good question. I really like the Roof, which is a German company that customizes Porsche cars, and it's their take on the 911. And that car for me, as a raid spec vehicle, completely customizes the most fun vehicle for me in the game.
Tell us 5 things about the crew that will make people want to play it.
I can hardly count to 5.
There's 2 things about the crew.
So I think, when I think of the game, and I obviously love the game, I've worked on it for a fair amount of time, but the number one thing that I love about it is this huge, incredibly varied world that I can discover collectibles and things and drive just as a Zen experience with my friends. The second thing is cooperative. Super important for me is to be able to play with my friends, and it really does transform the experience. If you can remember the couch experience that you used to play back on Super Nintendo days, this is kind of like that, but with this online connection and using all of the functions that the new generation of consoles bring. The third thing, I love playing asynchronous challenges. So being able to do skills and seeing the ghosts of my friends who have beaten me the night before and beating them and sending my ghost into their game, that's a real pleasure for me. PvP is always enormous fun. And I'd say the last thing is customizing my cars and getting every single detail to represent who I am and the way I want my car to look and feel when I'm driving it.
Perfect. Any plans for post-launch content?
So post-launch is a tricky one because I've pitched a plan to Ubisoft, and in my mind, the best way to do this is to keep on delivering free content to players. So every month delivering new races, new skills, things like that, but also major features. So major features could be photo mode, it could be user-generated content, that type of thing. So I know that Ubisoft wants to invest in the game, so we have a team that's going to be doing that. But I don't know how it's going to be delivered to people. I know there'll be a lot of free content, though.
And when's the game out and on what formats?
So The Crew comes out November 11th on PS4, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox 360.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Why not subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the link